Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Brian Galicia. Welcome to another great installment of LinkedIn Live from Microsoft. It is my honor and pleasure to be joined by these fine three gentlemen. We're going to go around the horn and do quick introductions, but again, purpose of this actually LinkedIn Live is to talk about all things related to teams. And so we know that from a partnership opportunities, it's such a great ability for all our partners, ISVs, SIs, etc., to really drive the ability to extend your offerings and IP and opportunity with the Teams platform. And so I brought three great experts into this, peers of mine, to actually give everyone a quick point of view, an overview of what is Teams and the what, the why, and the how. So we're going to kick off and start out with Igor. We'll just go around the horn and do quick introductions, and we'll start from there. So Igor, why don't you share with the community who you are, how long you've been at Microsoft, and then one thing that I always ask people is, what's one thing on your LinkedIn profile that you'd like to share with the audience?
Okay, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Rob, Bob, and all the audience. Good morning, good evening, everyone. So Igor here. I started at Microsoft back in 2009, Microsoft Spain. Then I moved to Microsoft Corp three years ago. So I'm now in the worldwide ISV team as a program manager. So I lead the execution with PDMs and PDMRs, helping ISVs to build Teams apps and to help with incentives, with programs, in order to publish apps into the store and drive Teams platform out or the usage of those apps. One thing that is not in my LinkedIn account, I think more in my personal life, I love cooking. So I love having my friends and my family. It's a difficult time now to have a lot of people at my place. But I just remodeling a new house and I'm building a big and a huge kitchen because that's the place that I love to be in the house. So hopefully we can have back to those big party meals with friends and family. So that's me, Brian.
No, thanks, Igor, and I'm looking forward to having you make some paella for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sounds good. So Rob, we'll go over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning and afternoon, everyone. So I'm Rob Loewen, and so I've been with Microsoft probably a little over 14 years in different roles, and just joined the ecosystem team on Teams a little over a year ago. And so my role right now is working with different groups within Microsoft, really to help support different teams and organizations to build and develop apps for the Teams ecosystem. And so it's pretty interesting and exciting opportunity, of course, given the growth of Teams. And then I'll just say, like, one thing that's probably not on my LinkedIn profile is kind of like tying off a little bit about what Igor was talking about is my interest and activity in home remodel and renovation. I've done probably 4 home renovations. So it's not quite up to the par yet where it becomes official on LinkedIn. So I'll keep that discreet and within this audience and undocumented, but that's a little something about myself, and look forward to chatting with everyone this morning.
No, thanks, Rob. Yeah, I always learn very interesting things about my Microsoft colleagues on these calls, and I had no idea that Igor was a kind of aspiring chef, Spanish chef, and then Rob, like, geez, I can think about a ton of things in my house that I need remodeling somebody to keep you up to get some tips and tricks from you. Yeah. Great. So Bob, last but not least, we'll continue on with you, Bob.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I've been developing for collaboration type scenarios for a long time, starting on SharePoint. I was a developer before that, but I really just love helping people to collaborate better and finding ways to kind of streamline people's work by bringing together the way that people work together with the work that they actually have to do with various applications. So let's see something. And so I'm a developer advocate. I'm in the Cloud Developer Advocacy Group focused on Teams and Microsoft Graph, which are both really exciting products. And what's not on my LinkedIn profile is probably music. I just love music. If I was to tilt my camera, you could see some guitars over here, but I think they're not in the frame right now. But I play the guitar very occasionally, and I like listening to music. We have a nice stereo and stuff, so I'm just a music person all over the place.
I love it, Bob. If I knew that ahead of time, I would have probably had you start the show with a little riff on your guitar.
That would have been much more stressful than showing my code, believe it or not.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's great. Well, thank you all of you for the great intro. So before we get started, everybody, as we normally do, and I should have done it before we started the intros, we would love to hear where you're watching from. So we know that all of you, I mean, it's such a busy time, and trying to carve out your time to watch something like this from an educational standpoint is always challenging, but we'd love to get engagement throughout it. If you want to do a shout out of where you're watching from and put it in the LinkedIn comments, I'll definitely flash it up here. But also, if you have questions as Igor, Rob, and Bob are reviewing and sharing a point of view on all things related to teams, please don't hesitate again to also put your comment in the LinkedIn window, because that gives us an opportunity again to ask these types of questions in real time, and it's a great way to interact. And we have the experts on the phone. If you've ever been thinking about how to extend or do something with Microsoft as it relates to the Teams opportunities, we have great people on this call to actually address those questions. So I'm going to pass it over to Igor to kind of kick us off with starting with passing over to Rob, and let's start talking about the opportunity. So anyway, Igor, let's get started.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Brian. So we were discussing in the last year with this remote work that we are everyone is recommending. We're working from home from I think it was a year ago for us here at Microsoft. So I think it's important to give you a perspective. What are we working, and what is the Teams ISV ecosystem? What are we asking partners and ISVs to be able to do in order to be aligned on our strategy? Like Microsoft Teams, we're gonna go through numbers. How many daily and monthly active users we have, but the most important, what are the top apps, and what are the things that we are pursuing to do, like building apps to help us with the remote work, with collaboration tools, with access to those common tasks that we need in this new era. So we're gonna go through what is the Teams ISV, why are we asking, or why are we building this ecosystem of apps, and how can you start? How can you get started? So Rob, super happy to have you here. It's time for you to just kick it off.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you, Igor. So I think we can probably move to the next slide. Yeah, so when we think about Teams, we think of it really as a collaboration workspace, and really a hub for teamwork within M365. And then within kind of this hub, you really want to think about Teams in terms of four main pillars. There's chat, where there's real-time chat meetings, which includes obviously voice and also video. And then collaboration with the suite of Office apps. And then also very critical is the integration of business processes and workflows. And as users spend more and more time on Teams, integrating apps and services into Teams Hub is really becoming an increasingly more important scenario for organizations to really increase productivity of their workforce. And so this really allows users to engage with external apps and services that they use directly within Teams without having to change or switch contexts. And so for partners, really this allows partners to go where customers are already at and engaging. And it really creates a huge untapped audience for partners to target. And so that's kind of just a framework for Teams. I think it's just good to kind of sort of get the basic structure out to say that, yeah, this is really the core and key hub for teamwork within an organization. And then I think we can go to the next slide. And so when you kind of think of that hub for teamwork, there's really a couple key scenarios that are supported. And so when you kind of look at an organization, what's really critical to every organization is collaboration. And Teams allows that collaboration with groups in real time, where they can share information, edit content, and then with that content, provides them with a central location for all that information that can be created and accessed by individuals and the group. And so that collaboration is key and satisfies a lot of different workplace scenarios. But then in addition to that collaboration, there's also organizational workflows that are supported. And so every organization has different and unique workflows. And as part of that, Teams supports that. And within that, supports things like notifications to relevant team members, informing them that there's a task or some new content that's available to them. And so I think Bob's going to speak to a couple different scenarios, but overall, the scenarios are around the collaboration, business processes, and workflows, and sort of bringing all those together for an organization, really to help them be what's critical, which is productive and collaborating. And then so when we kind of go to the next slide, Brian. Really, we were talking a little bit about sort of the growth and sort of the importance of the ecosystem that Igor mentioned. I just put this slide up here to kind of just mention that the ecosystem for Teams applications has been growing rapidly. And so to date, we have over 875 apps for Teams available on the Microsoft Store. And so the ecosystem of partners and apps is really critical for us at Microsoft, because we really see this as what drives the value and the growth for Teams, for users and our partners. So this is just to show it's important, and we're continuing to grow this big ecosystem globally. And then the last slide that I just want to kind of share with everyone is just on this sort of growth theme. And really, I think the takeaway for us is, we're all very fortunate to be working on the Teams business, and Teams has been the fastest growing business application in Microsoft. And so, some of the rapid growth that we've seen, we're now at over 115 million daily active users. We're in over 180 markets globally, and over 500,000 organizations are using Teams to help, their orgs be more productive. So there's definitely a lot of continued growth. There's been a lot of rapid scaling in the past year and a half, and we're just excited to be part of that and kind of share the partner opportunity with everyone. And so I think there's just one more quick slide, and I think Igor will probably address this one just around Teams and our valued partner ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Rob. In terms of what are the benefits and why Microsoft opened this ecosystem and to bring you the platform, but also the tools and the proposition to go and build Teams apps and publish into the store. And when we talk about the store, we're talking about Microsoft App Source or the Teams store, how you go into Teams and start using those apps to collaborate. I think that is good for you to know, you are gonna outreach to a broader audience. We're talking about the marketplace. We're talking about Microsoft App Source or the store, as I mentioned before. But you can expand your customer base. We're talking about tools like the front line worker scenarios. How can you improve building those apps for those specific industry scenarios? But also leverage product innovation. You're using the Microsoft 365 platform. You can connect and you can start using or extending tabs, building bots, integrate with the Graph API connections. You can definitely extend messages, adaptive cards into Teams, package and deploy a package and publish into the store. You can also start using all the power of the Power Platform for Teams. We're talking about Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents, how you can combine all those business solutions into one platform and starts extending and creating that app to start for the customers to go and start use into Teams. And also increase the momentum. As Rob covered, right? We have like more than 100 monthly active users. This is the most the fastest growing business at Microsoft, and we are supporting all this by industry or by category, all the remote work scenarios. So that's a huge opportunity for all of us to start building those apps. Yeah, you're on mute, Brian. Sorry about that.
Sorry, thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, thanks, Igor and Rob, for the great background and introduction. Before we pass over to Bob to showcase many of this great potential opportunity, and let me kind of tease this up in here, I want to do a quick shout out. We definitely have a global audience like we normally do on this. So shout out to Wanderlei in Portugal, Michelle in Italy, David and Michael from Canada, Randy from Canada, Steve from Canada, Jeff from the US, San Francisco, Tom from Minnesota. So it is fantastic to have such a global audience, North Americas and in EMEA watching this. We actually got the first question from here, from Randy. Will you be posting some links to documentation to get started with the Teams build? Yes, that's a fantastic question. We actually, I don't want to provide it now, but at the end, we will provide a link that actually has not only the quick presentation that we showed, but many of the starting resources that all of you as partners, particularly ISVs, can look at to get started. So just stay tuned, Randy. We'll flash that up there at the end after we go through it. So again, as a reminder, if you have any questions as we're going through this, please don't hesitate to put it in the comments window. I am going to also let you know Rob does have to drop off at the bottom half of the at 8:30 West Coast time. So if you see him drop off from the screen, it's not the fact that he just left. He did have a conflicting comment, but between Bob, myself, and Igor, we'll definitely ensure we get things covered. So if you do have a question for Rob specifically on what he went through, feel free to put it in the window. We'll try to catch him before he actually has to drop off. So Bob, we'll pass it over to you to kind of showcase all the potential kind of getting starting points to give people a visual as to how do they really get started.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. So, I mean, what you're looking at first is an application in Microsoft Teams. So you've probably seen Teams before, but you maybe didn't see a Get Started icon at the top of the left sidebar. The reason that that's there is because an admin pinned and kind of pushed out this application using what's called an app setup policy. So they created a policy that said everybody should have this training, and it should be right at the top of their navigation bar. And that's something that every admin can do with your app as well. The other thing that's interesting about this is this training site is just a web page. So I'm going to kind of keep going. You'll see this as a bit of a theme, but if you're an ISV and your product is web-based, you already have almost got a Teams app probably, right? Like this is just a web page that's being displayed here for everyone to use as a training scenario. So let me go in and actually show a Teams application that's a little bit more kind of collaborative, but this is just something that everybody can use. If you just want to get your app kind of very handy for everybody would use this kind of on their own. So it's not as collaborative. But since people are spending so much time in Teams, just putting your web-based app inside of the Teams UI, it has a lot of value to users. Now, I'm going to go into some Teams here and show a couple of examples. And the first one is a hiring example. So I work for a datum consulting company in my fictitious role, and we're looking to hire somebody. So this is a Teams channel. This is kind of the new way of doing it, right? The old way would be tons of email going every which way from Sunday. Now we're looking at one place where everybody can come who's either a hiring manager or in HR or anywhere in the interview process and can collaborate and share information. Now, one of the things that we're going to want to do is keep track of what openings we have and what we're trying to fill and where the candidates are at. So typically we'd have to leave Teams, leave out whatever collaboration tool and go into some HR application. But you'll notice there's this hiring board here. Again, this is just a web page. So the backing application is just serving up a web page. The only thing about it is it has to, if you're technical, it has to work in an iframe. But otherwise, it's just an ordinary web page. And you can see here that all the positions are listed along with the candidates for those positions. Now, if a user wants to add another tab, like I'm getting a lot of pressure to get this, this one full stack developer filled. So I can come in here and actually add a new tab. And this is really easy for you to set up. Basically, this is another web page here in the middle of this dialog box that is provided by my app. So I can come in here and say urgent hire and pick one of the job openings. And again, you can put any configuration that you need for your app inside of this iframe and use our SDK to get back that information whenever anybody clicks on the tab. So it'll bring up the correct information, right? That's the type, you're not, Igor talked and Rob talked about tools, and we do have some great tools, but frankly, ISVs, when I talk to ISVs, usually you already have an app. You don't need to rewrite it. That's the point. And I'll show some more examples like that as well. But I also want to bring another aspect of Teams into this, which is that it's conversational, right? Everything in Teams is a conversation. So I would expect to have something like a bot that I could talk to, and indeed I do here. So I can say, now one thing about bots is that you have to mention them. And the reason for that, if you're in a shared environment where there's many humans, the bot won't see everything that everybody's saying to each other. It'll only see when you actually mention the bot. So I'm just going to ask the bot to show me my open positions. And, you know, that's kind of cool, but it's really the same information I have on the tab. So it's nice, but I'm going to show some more examples where that really like, wow, having a bot makes a huge difference. One thing that this bot has done that I love is that it's using a thing called an adaptive card. So instead of just answering me with a block of text, the bot is giving me this rich card, and this is called an adaptive card. These are completely open source. It's just a JSON structure under the covers, and I can click on one of these positions and interact with it and actually get back details. Or I can even come in here and actually add a new job posting to the system this way. And so a card can be like a little form that I would fill out. So I'll get back to that. I'm not going to finish this exact demo right here because I want to show you so many other things. But I could certainly fill this out and add another position to the system. Now, one thing I would like to also show is the idea of a messaging extension. So you've seen tabs. So tabs are just web pages, right? Bots are just web services. So if you know how to write a web service, you're already on your way there, right? And then messaging extensions is where you get to extend the menus inside and the messages inside of Teams. So for instance, and those are just web services as well. So today we interviewed a great candidate, and I want feedback from the whole team on this candidate. So I'm just going to say, please leave feedback for, what's her name again? I can't remember her last name. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the Talent app here right from where I'm writing my messages. And all of the positions and candidates are right here. So I can come in here. I think her name was Donna something. So let me start. Yep, that's her, right? Donna, I thought she was great. I'm going to try to get feedback from the rest of the group. So notice that now, instead of a bot sending this adaptive card, I'm sending it as a user. Now let's see what happens. Let's imagine that I'm on the receiving end of this card. And now, real world, post-COVID, I'm not at home. I'm actually out on the road running around doing 27 things. So I go into Teams, and I notice that this card is there. And what would this be like in the old world, right? I would have to go maybe back to my computer, log in. Maybe I have to connect to a VPN and then I go to an HR app, and what's the first thing I have to do? I have to look up Donna, because the HR app has no idea that I was just discussing Donna over in this other tool, right? Here, everything is completely linked. So it says Donna, I want to leave feedback for Donna. Sure. All I have to do is click leave comment. I can come in and say, great candidate, let's hire her. Submit that. And I'm done, right? So I don't have to leave Teams. I don't have to go look that up. If I want to see the feedback, hey, there it is, right? So this is another thing that you can do in Teams. This is called a task module. And this is another part of my Teams app. And guess what? It's just a web page. So far, I've had 2 web pages and 2 web services. If you're an ISV who knows how to build web pages and web services, you already know 90% of what you need to build a Teams app. And you can streamline work for users, just like I'm showing, without having to go and reinvent collaboration. Now, let me show you another example. Since I'm working for a consulting company, one of the things that I often do is I have to bill my hours. So I'm just walking out of a project where I was working, and I'm going to just, rather than having to go back to my desk and remember how many hours I worked, I'm just literally going to go talk to the bot. Oops. Sorry. I didn't mean to type all that. So I've got the phone on typing mode. Well, we'll see what the bot says to all that. Let's try again. Cancel. Today, I worked 4 hours on Consolidated Messenger. So what it's going to do is go look up the project, figure out what today is, translate the text. Now, the phone did the voice part, but translate the text from the phone into an actual business transaction where it can do the work for me. Or if, for instance, if maybe I didn't provide complete information. Today I worked on a project. And now it's going to ask me for the missing information, right? Consolidated Messenger. "20 minutes. Oh, I got a bug in my bot. But anyway, you get the idea that rather than give me an error if I do something, if I make like a mistake or something, it's going to prompt me for the information and get the job done without me having to go figure anything out as a user. So let me just go back to the desktop for one other little thing, which is if I'm in a shared environment, bots tend to work a little bit differently. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be here in my, oops, clicked on the wrong screen. Actually, let me show another tab example, because I want to kind of highlight the fact that these apps are not just running in Teams. They're running on all of Microsoft 365. Teams is built on the entire platform, which, if you're not familiar, SharePoint, Exchange Online, To Do, there's like more than a dozen different services there that people are using every day. Teams stitches them all together, and your app can do that too by making use of the Graph, Microsoft Graph. So here's a scenario of some insurance adjusters. They're going around and doing building inspections when there's building damage or new construction or something like that. One of the things that they use inside of their team is this site inspections app. And you can see, guess what? It's a Power App. So Power Apps and the whole Power Platform suite work in Teams natively. And you have choices here where you can either publish an app directly to Teams, like this one, or you can put it into a Teams application package and push it out, like the one I had up here, my Getting Started app that I was pushed out by policy to everyone, right? Now, I also wrote this custom app, and this is just a single page app. but it's going to show the Microsoft graph. What this does is it goes to everybody on the team and looks at their calendar to see the visits that they're going to make to customers today. And then if you click on one of the visits, it goes and gets all of the business data and all of the collaboration data that, in this case, Katie would need to go on this customer visit. So I've got this transaction data from my customer. I've got the customer's CRM information, and this could certainly come from MS CRM, although I'm using the Northwind database here because it's just a sample. But that the APIs are absolutely there, and it would work perfectly. And then I've got all the documents and photos, which are actually in SharePoint. And also I'm using Bing Maps and Open Weather Map. So pulling together everything that Katie needs to do this visit. Now, let me just go ahead. Imagine that I'm Katie for a minute. I'm not going to log off and on because it would take too much time, but I need some help. So let's imagine that Katie has a bit of a scheduling conflict. This app is going to send a message into the channel, which is another graph call. And here's the message. And I guess what I want to just show about this is that this message contains a deep link, what's called a deep link. So the deep link would bring me to the correct channel, the correct team, the correct tab within the channel, and then the correct exact appointment that Katie wanted me to look at. So I think that's probably a good start for the demo. We're kind of at time, but just again, a reminder, everything you've seen here is about streamlining work, making life every day easier for your users. It also makes your product stickier if you're an ISV. If everybody's using these kinds of use cases, how could they ever consider going to a competitor, right? They're going to stay with your product because you've made it so easy for everybody to use who is a Microsoft 365 customer.
Bob, thank you so much. Gosh, that was well packed with so much innovation and the different scenarios, from a simple website being embedded in the team's experience to then that real-time interaction that can occur with deep linking to just the bot scenario. And hopefully all of you who are watching this watching this live or watching the potential recording, that it's a huge differentiation to why you'd want to engage with Microsoft, not just from a team's perspective, but Bob had talked about Power Apps or even Dynamics. If you are one of those, because of course, if you follow myself, we talk a lot of things about the Dynamics and ISV Connect. If you're an ISV partner or ISV Connect partner today, to what Bob had shown, there's so much possibility and momentum. I think the one thing, Bob, if you can just quickly show just the App Store. I know Bob, Rob had talked about it, but if you can just kind of quickly flash that up there on the screen. Just
so if you have Teams, it's down here, and unless your IT admin has turned it off, you can actually just click down here if you've got Teams and look through all these apps. And yeah, the list just goes on and on and on.
That is great.
And what's another thing that's cool, Brian, really is that these are, you'll notice that some of these are first-party apps, meaning they're from Microsoft, and they're third-party apps. You should know that the way we extend Teams, the way Dynamics would extend Teams, for instance, or the way, some other, like To-Do, which is another M365 app, it's the same as the way that we make available to our ISVs. So you're really we're all on a level playing field here, sort of as developers plugging stuff into Teams. And yeah, there's a ton of apps that have already taken advantage of this capability. I could keep scrolling for a long time.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, you could see here the marketplace is filled with so many existing ISVs, but I'm hoping that people listening to this conversation maybe got some initial ideas for you to be a part of this experience. I'm going to just flash this up here, Bob. John O'Donnell had this great comment here. Bots let you ask a question, then go off and do some other work, and then come back for the answer. Bots can help you multitask during the day rather than wait for an answer, which I think is great, because that natural interaction that happens in an IM post, and what you talked about with the app mentioning of either the bot or the experience and having that back and forth and that natural flow, is exactly why a lot of people, especially on the biz app side, when you think about business process, figure out a team scenario, because that natural business process extension, similar to what you showed with that Power Apps component with someone going on site and doing something, is a great example of that real-time interaction that can occur in the flow.
Yeah,
So,
that's really true. That was a very insightful comment from the viewer. I mean, bots have some really interesting advantages. I would caution people against writing a bot just because bots are cool, because they are cool and they're trendy. But there are some super powerful scenarios, and that's one of them that the viewer mentioned, is that, you know, they can actually work in the background. You don't have to sit and wait for the screen to update. Another one is for situations that are ambiguous, where the user doesn't know what they want at all, and they can just ask the bot in plain language for something, and a good bot will at least help try to point them in the right direction within a certain domain. And then the other one is really about shared environments, and I'll see if I can, let me finish this one, because I had brought up this little form here of a job posting, and just kind of watch what happens. So my posting, and I'm just going to be super brief and make it, but now I'm in a group environment, and watch what happens when I create the posting. The bot is going to take away the form and replace it with a confirmation card. So think about how many emails this saved.
yeah.
Right? Like I would have had to email somebody to put the job posting, and then they would have emailed everybody telling them this job opening was there. They might have forgotten some of the details, and we'd be going back and forth on the details. The bot can let everybody know. It could also send proactive notifications to other people who need to know about something. So that's where a visual UI is great for some things, but just can't compete in those scenarios where you really want to play with the boundaries of time and space across users, and bots can do that.
That's great, Bob. We have another great question coming in from Italy. Is it possible to create a link to a specific app to be embedded in a mail or in a message?
Well, yes, you can. There are deep links, these deep links, and I can follow up with the format. They are very powerful. And so you could bring a deep link in an email, or just a hyperlink, right? So you could send it in an email or a message or a text or anything, and somebody clicks on it and they go directly into your app. Now, some of the links are going to be related to a specific location in Teams. So usually there's a hierarchy, like, okay, the link is into Teams, now it's into this team, now it's into this channel. So you may find that you can't make one link for everybody to go to your app, no matter where it's installed. It's more like your app is going to somehow provide a link to itself in the exact team where it's been installed. But I see people doing that all the time, and it's a great way to draw people back into your app. And when you do it, you're not just drawing them into your app and then they're at the front of your app trying to figure out what to do. You're bringing them into the exact business context where they need to do their work.
Great. Thanks, Bob, and thanks, Michelle, for that question. Another great question, Vic from Canada. Can you easily run an ISV app in Teams on mobile devices? And I think you showed that, but
yeah,
you enforce that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm see if I have one, but yes, in fact, it's a best practice. So another advantage of bots is the mobile story is pretty easy because it's just conversation and the little cards. But if you're building tabs or task modules, which are basically web pages, you're encouraged to build responsive, mobile-friendly pages, because that's part of the power of Teams. In fact, what a trend that I'm seeing is people building mobile apps for first-line worker scenarios where the workers don't have any computer except for their own cell phone. And what you can do is basically make Teams be the app for one of your customers, presumably as an ISV, where they can make certain apps available. You can pin them to the bottom of the phone app. So you could literally see where I have Get Started here. Well, this could be a third-party app as well, but this could get pushed out maybe to all users, or you could an admin could make a policy, push it only to the users in Canada, or push it only to the users in a certain job function who need that app. And then it's right there on their phone. So I almost think phones are the most popular place for certain scenarios, especially where people don't have a conventional computer and they're either always on the go or they're using their personal device.
Okay. Gosh, well, thank you so much, Bob. That was so insightful and a lot of good questions. And thank you again for all the people watching live asking these questions. So we're going to wrap this up. If you have one last minute question, feel free to put it in the window. Otherwise, let me show this and how do you get started? And this goes back to, I think her name was Ranny, comment. So one of the things that we have is that we put all this great information as starting points, a few websites, a few documentation pieces, and a website that kind of starts with helping develop apps for teams, all in a nice, easy to remember and a dialogue. So if you just go to aka.ms/LinkedIn Live MAR01, that will take you to this experience, which again has the presentation that we kicked off with, including all our LinkedIn profiles. So again, one of the great ways too is that we can all be digitally connected. Unfortunately, because we can't meet people face to face, is a great way to again look at all the backgrounds. Bob, Rob, myself, Igor, feel free to connect with us and actually ask questions after the fact, because this conversation can continue to live on, because we definitely want to ensure that the people who find this interesting, who find that there's a huge opportunity to take what they're doing today and expand that to a modern workplace teams opportunity. Hopefully you got inspired through what Igor, Rob, and Bob had shared through all the great conversation and presentation, etc. So yeah, it doesn't look like we have any other questions. So any other last minute comments, takeaways, Igor and Bob, that you want to share before we sign off for the day?
Just thanks for including me and for focusing on Teams apps. I just think it's one of the most exciting areas in our ecosystem right now, and I hope that lots of partners pile on with really cool apps.
Yeah.
And one quick thing, Bob, we did get a question, so maybe you can address this really quickly if you have the opportunity. So Michael, I think in Canada, had asked, will any PCF control model-driven app work within a Teams tab, or are there limitations in design to be aware of?
I have to admit, I'm not a Power Platform expert, so I don't know the answer to that. I suspect the answer is yes, because Power Apps has already, has deep integration in with Teams, and I don't see why model apps wouldn't work, because I've done it. I've used Canvas apps, and yeah, so it's probably yes. I would put money probably yes, but I can't give an authoritative answer.
That's okay. That's a good response, Bob. High probability. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, we'll try it.
Yeah. Igor, any last minute comments before we wrap this up?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Bob. It was a great demo to start thinking about what are the possibilities, what are the scenarios, what are the scenarios that we provide with the platform to go and build on Teams and then publish into the store. And thank you for the audience. I mean, you have a lot of documentation and you know where to go if you're gonna get started with all of the things that we just covered. And please, if you have more questions, if you wanna connect with us, you have all our LinkedIn profiles. So hopefully we can continue and we will keep in touch with all of you. So that's all. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thanks again to all the presenters, Igor, Bob, Rob. On behalf of Microsoft, thank you everyone for making the time. A quick shout out. So as we do these LinkedIn Live events, we try to do this every Monday at 8 o'clock West Coast time. So next week, we actually have a great ISV, Solgari, where we're going to talk about similar to what we have had previously. We try to highlight BizApps ISVs, ISV Connect ISVs who are having success or finding success with the program. And so next week, 8 o'clock, we'll have the CEO and CFO from Solgari on the phone with us. So thanks again, everyone. Continue to be well, be safe, and thanks again for making the time. Take care. Thanks again, Bob.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.